town, a hidden affair. By sunset, one man lies dead in a basement, and the killer isn't who police first suspect. Before we dive in, smash the like button, subscribe, and tell me in the comments where you're watching from and what time it is right now. This is an original fictional story inspired by real investigative cases and relationship dynamics. Names, places, and events are invented for storytelling and YouTube guidelines. Prologue: The Basement Door. On a warm Saturday in early June, the small town of Westbridge looked calm. Lawns were trimmed. Kids rode bikes. From the outside, nothing was wrong. At 6:42 p.m., a 911 call broke that calm. A woman said there was a man lying still in the basement apartment of a duplex on Maple Street. She sounded breathless. She said she was there with her husband. She said the door had been open. She said they were worried about their friend. His name was Jamie Rivers. He was 32. He worked part-time at a local gym and stocked shelves at night. He had kind eyes and a habit of smiling, even when he was tired. When police arrived, the scene looked messy. Drawers were open. A backpack was dumped. A lamp was on the floor. In the basement, Jamie lay on the rug. He had been shot twice. There was no gun near him. The woman who called 911 was Elena Turner. She stood by a shelf, arms crossed tight. Her husband, Mark Turner, was near the stairs. He looked pale and shaken. This is the story of how a hidden relationship came to light, how a plan came apart, and how a community learned that even quiet towns hold loud secrets. I will tell it simply. I will tell you what people said, what evidence showed, and where the truth finally landed. People and places. Westbridge sits a few miles off the interstate, by a slow river and long fields. People go to church on Sundays. People wave at the gas station. It is not a place where you expect a crime story, but crimes happen where people live, and people live everywhere. Mark Turner, 34, was a forklift operator at the food warehouse outside town. He started at 5 a.m. and finished by mid-afternoon. He had strong arms, a quiet voice, and a habit of saying, "I'm fine," even when he was not. He had been married to Elena for 8 years. They had no children. Friends said they seemed steady, if not warm. Elena, 31, worked at a hair salon. She was quick and neat. She liked order, folded towels, lined up brushes, a perfect part down the middle of her own dark hair. She was also loyal. If she thought you were hers, she held on. Jamie lived under a noisy family. His basement place was half finished. Grey paint, old carpet, a couch that sagged. He was not rich, but he was generous. He would bring protein bars for the kids upstairs. He would help neighbors carry groceries. Many people liked him. A few did not. It is like that in every town. The hidden line. In stories like this, there is always a line, and someone steps over it. Mark met Jamie at the gym. Mark came for his back pain. Jamie showed him simple stretches and how to breathe when lifting. They started talking. They kept talking. It began with coffee, then text. It moved to the park, then a bar 2 towns away, then a room at the motel by the highway. It was slow and then fast. It felt wrong and felt right at the same time. That is how many affairs feel. Their messages were simple and risky. You okay? Miss your smile. Tonight. I can only stay an hour. They kept it quiet. They did not post photos. They did not hold hands in town. They picked nights when Elena worked late or went to visit her sister. Mark told himself it was a phase. He told himself it was private. He told himself that if he hid it well, no one would get hurt. He did not know that secrets always push toward the light. The first crack. Elena noticed small things first, as careful people do. Mark changed his phone code. He started showering as soon as he came home. He had new playlists. He wore cologne to the warehouse. He said he was tired, then stayed up texting. One night, Elena heard the quiet buzz of Mark's phone on the dresser. He slept deep. She told herself not to look. She looked. There it was. Jay. There it was. You're safe with me. There it was. A longer message that felt like a hand to the chest. I don't want to hide us forever. I want to sit with you in the sun. Elena felt heat rush to her face, then cold. She had cried before, but not like this. It was not only betrayal, it was confusion. The other person was a man. She did not expect that. She did not scream at Mark that night. She closed the message and set the phone back down. In the morning, she made coffee. She asked if he wanted toast. She watched him laugh at something on TV. Later, she drove to work and sat in her car for 10 minutes, staring at the dashboard. When she did move, she moved with purpose. She told her boss she had a headache and went home. She searched Mark's closet. She found a hotel receipt. She found a folded paper with a phone number and a name, Jamie. She looked Jamie up on social media. There was his smile. There were pictures of the river, of the gym, of a cheap seafood dinner that still looked happy. There were no photos of Mark. Elena felt something new then, something like a knife, but duller and wider. Inversion. She felt that her life had turned inside out. That night, Elena asked Mark quietly, "Is there someone else?" He lied, softly. He said no. He touched her arm. She moved away. She did not confront him again in words. The Friday plan. On Friday, June 7th, Elena made a plan. It was not a detailed plan on paper. It was a plan made of anger and humiliation, and that is a kind of plan that sometimes feels like breathing. She checked Mark's schedule. He would be home by 3, and he had said, casually, in the kitchen, that he might go for a drive later to clear his head. Elena heard the words and saw the picture behind them. At lunch, Elena told her boss she needed Saturday off. She texted her sister that she might visit Sunday. She bought groceries and, at the hardware store, a cheap glass punch tool. She put it in her purse. She also took from a shoebox in their bedroom a small handgun. Mark had bought it after there were break-ins on the other side of town. They had shot it together once in a gravel pit. Elena wrapped the gun in a towel and put it in her tote, under a hairdryer. No one looked there. No one, except her. Around 5, Mark said he was going to the river. He kissed Elena on the cheek. She did not turn. He left. Elena waited, then drove to Maple Street. She had never been there. The duplex sat quiet under a maple with leaves so thick they made a green ceiling. A neighbor watered flowers, looked up, then looked down. Elena parked around the corner. She walked to the back. The basement door had a sticky lock. Jamie sometimes left it half-latched for friends. That is something people do in small towns. It is a kindness and a risk. This time, it was a risk. Elena knocked. Jamie called. "Just a minute," from inside. She heard the thud of bare feet on carpet. When he opened the door, she saw surprise, then worry. He had seen her photo on Mark's phone once, reflected in a dark screen. "Elena," he said. She said, "We need to talk." He let her in. The last conversation. Jamie made tea. He sat across from Elena at the little kitchen table. The room smelled like lemon cleaner and something else, like the heat of a recent shower. Elena placed her hands flat on the table and looked at them. When she spoke, her voice was small and exact. "How long?" "A few months," Jamie said. "Do you love him?" Jamie looked at the floor. "I care about him. I think he cares about me. It's complicated." "Does he? Did you ask him to leave me?" "No. I told him to be honest with you. That's all. I don't want to steal him." He paused. I just want to breathe." The word stung. Elena felt her throat close. She thought of the folded towels and the lined-up brushes, the small, perfect things she could control. "Did you stay together last night?" Jamie hesitated, then nodded once. "He slept here." Elena stood up. The chair legs scraped the tile. She moved to the window, opened it, and then closed it again, as if the room needed air and then didn't. Jamie stood too. "Elena, I'm sorry. I didn't plan this. He didn't plan this. People ... She turned. "People choose." He said nothing. In a different version of this story, they might have kept talking. They might have cried. They might have called Mark. They might have gone outside and walked under the thick leaves. In that version, no one would have been shot, and we would not be here. That is not this version. Elena reached into her tote and took out the towel-wrapped gun. She did it with the same neatness she used at the salon. She unwrapped it, held it, and said in a voice that was not loud, "You broke my life." Jamie stepped back and raised his hands. "Elena, please. Please don't do this." His voice was steady because he trained people at the gym to breathe when they were scared. Elena raised the gun. Later, she would say everything went white. She would say she saw herself from above, like a camera in a corner. She would say she did not remember pulling the trigger. Memory is tricky during shock, but facts are not. There were 2 shots. The small basement sucked in the sound and spit it back. Jamie fell. Elena felt the room tilt and right itself. The gun felt heavy, then light. She stood, breathing hard. She looked around. She saw the open drawers. She had not pulled them open yet. She did now. She dumped a backpack, knocked over a lamp, kicked a chair, and used the glass punch to make a neat hole in the back door pane. The tool made a tiny tap that would not wake neighbors. She reached through and unlocked the door, though it had never been locked. She picked up Jamie's phone and put it in her tote. She wiped the table with her sleeve. She wiped the doorknob. She wiped the tea mug. She left the gun wrapped in the towel in her tote and walked out. She drove around the block twice, then went home the long way. The sky was still light. She washed her hands with lemon soap. She sat on the couch. The TV played a game show where people guessed words and won trips to Florida. When Mark came in, she stood and said, "I need to check on Jamie. He hasn't answered." It was a line she had prepared on the drive. It felt thin. it held. Mark frowned, then nodded, then followed her to the car. The call. They parked in front this time, in plain view. Elena knocked on the top door and then the back door. No answer. Mark called out, "Jamie!" His voice trembled. They walked in. The drawers were open. The lamp was on the floor. Elena stepped back, as if she had never seen the room. Mark moved toward the stairs, then stopped. "I can't," he whispered. Elena went down instead. In one version, she would have stayed upstairs. In this version, she went down and saw what she already knew. She made herself gasp. She ran back up, took out her phone, and dialed 911. Her voice was breathless, and that part was real. Police came, sealed the scene, took statements. Elena held Mark's hand on the porch. He squeezed back like a man in free fall. In the first hour of any homicide, many things are possible. In the next days, many things grow narrow. That is what happened here. What the evidence said. I spoke with Detective Alvarez, a patient man with a notebook that was always half full. He told me what they found. The drawers were open, but nothing obvious was missing. There was cash in a jar in the kitchen, untouched. A TV was still on the dresser. The hole in the back door glass was small and neat. The broken shards lay mostly outside on the concrete step, not inside on the kitchen floor. That is the sign of staging, Alvarez said. People who break in leave more of the glass inside than out. People who break out or fake a break-in sometimes forget that detail. There were 2 shell casings on the rug. They matched a 9mm handgun. There were faint wipe marks on the table in straight lines, the way a careful person might wipe. There were no obvious fingerprints on the mugs. Jamie's phone was missing. His smartwatch, however, still sat on his charger by the bed. Detectives pulled the health data. Around 5:53 p.m., his heart rate spiked. At 5:54, it flatlined. The time of death was clear. Neighbors said they heard no shouting. One neighbor's motion light went on at 5:30 and again at 6:05. Their doorbell camera showed a car circling the block around 6:07, the same make and color as Elena's sedan. The image was grainy. You could say it was any car like that, but later you would not. Mark's phone, when checked with consent, showed he had been at the river park from 5:15 to 6:10, walking a slow loop. A teen couple took a selfie by the river with Mark in the background. He looked like a man thinking hard. Elena's phone location was off from 5:20 to 6:30. The battery did not die. Location services were toggled off. That is not illegal, but detectives notice it. They also noticed a search on Elena's laptop from 2 days earlier. How to break small window quietly. There was another search, months old, about how to clean a gun. There was a video bookmarked on gun safety. These things can be innocent. Together, they start to point. At the salon, a co-worker remembered Elena leaving early on Friday, saying she had a headache and that men were liars. The co-worker laughed when she said it, thinking it was a joke. At the motel near the highway, a clerk remembered Mark and Jamie checking in once in April. He remembered because they had been kind and tipped him $5, and because kindness is rare at 1 a.m. The motel camera kept no footage after a week. The clerk's memory was all they had there. All of this is the careful work of small-town policing. Talk to people, write names on cards, pull camera feeds, print maps, draw lines. The line that mattered most ran from Mark's heart to Jamie's kitchen to Elena's tote. The phone in the drawer. 3 days after the shooting, detectives got a search warrant for the Turner home. It is never easy to serve a warrant to a family in grief, even if you suspect one of them. The team came mid-morning. Elena stood in the doorway, arms crossed tight again. Mark sat on the couch with his head down. In the bedroom closet, on the top shelf, under folded sweaters, detectives found a towel. Inside the towel was a 9mm pistol. In the bottom of Elena's vanity, under a hairdryer, was a black rectangle wrapped in a white plastic bag. It was Jamie's phone. Elena said nothing as they brought the items out. Mark raised his head and whispered, "What is that?" Down at the station, Elena at first asked for a lawyer. Then she sat for a while, looked at her hands, and began to talk. She said she had gone to talk. She said she had not meant to kill anyone. She said Jamie had reached for something, and she had panicked. Later, the evidence would show there was no weapon near Jamie, and the marks on the table were wipe marks, not signs of a fight. Elena would change her story again. This happens often when truth crashes into fear. When Detective Alvarez asked why she took the phone, Elena stared at the wall for a long time. Then she said, "I didn't want the messages to hurt me any more than they already had." She blinked and added, "I wanted to control something." Control is a strong word in cases like this. It is a key. The confession and the courtroom. Mark learned the full truth that same day. Elena told him in a small room with cinderblock walls. He put his hands to his face and stayed that way for a long minute. He did not shout. He did not stand. He said one sentence I still hear when I walk past the river. "You did not have to make a grave to solve this." The prosecutor charged Elena with murder. The public defender met her and explained the difference between first degree and second degree, between life and years, between a trial and a plea. Elena's face did not move much. She kept her hair perfect as long as she could, even in jail. In court, the facts were simple. The jury saw the doorbell camera of a car like Elena's. They saw the towel-wrapped gun from her closet. They saw the small punch tool. They saw photos of the glass on the wrong side of the door. They saw that Jamie's phone was found in Elena's vanity. They heard about the missing location data. They heard the smartwatch time of death. They heard how 2 shots, calm and controlled, do not sound like an accident. The defense spoke about shock. They spoke about betrayal. They spoke about a mind in a storm. They said Elena had lived in a world where no one taught her what to do with a secret like this. They asked for manslaughter. They asked the jury to picture a heart that broke so fast it became a fist before it could think. The prosecutor did not sneer. He was not cruel. He spoke softly and used short sentences. He told the jury that pain is real, but so is choice. He told them that you cannot stage a scene by accident. He told them that 2 bullets are not a cry for help. They are an action. The jury took 4 hours. They found Elena guilty of second-degree murder, not first. They believed she had not planned the killing days ahead with cold intent, but they believed she had made the choice to kill when she had the chance to leave. The judge sentenced her to 25 years. She could ask for parole after 20. Elena did not cry when the sentence was read. She looked at Mark. Mark looked at the floor. After. Mark moved out of their house at the end of that summer. The landlord on Maple Street found a new tenant for the basement by fall. The gym where Jamie worked added a bench by the front window with a small plaque. For Jamie, who made room for others. People asked me, when I finished the interviews, what I thought. I said this: secrets are like water behind a dam. They press and press. You can build a wall and patch small leaks. You can turn up the music so you don't hear the drip, but water will find a crack, and when it does, it cuts stone. Mark's secret did not start as a plan to hurt anyone. He told me that. He said he does not know why he reached for Jamie's hand the first time in the dark, or why he smiled when Jamie smiled, or why the sun felt warmer on days after he had seen him. He said he wished he had spoken to Eleanor honestly before everything broke. He did not say this to excuse himself. He said it for the record. Eleanor's act did not start as a legal brief either. It started as heat in the face and cold in the hands, and the belief that she had been pushed out of her own life. That belief became a choice, and that choice made a grave. We can understand the feeling without accepting the act. I tell stories like this because they are not rare. The details change, the streets and names shift, but the core stays. A secret, a discovery, a choice, a consequence. If we can name the steps, maybe someone will recognize them earlier and step off the path before the last one. The river. At the river park, there is a spot where the water turns slow around a bend. You can hear the highway faintly. You can hear birds louder. People walk there at dusk. Sometimes they sit and think. Mark goes there. He told me this on a bench. He said he sits by the slow water and says the names of the people he has hurt and asks for forgiveness in a quiet voice. He said he works the morning shift now and sleeps at night. He said the sun still feels warm sometimes, and he lets it. He did not ask me to make him look good in this story. He did not ask me to keep anything out. He did not ask me to blame Elena more or less. He wanted one thing, to say Jamie's name right. Jamie Rivers, he said, looking at the water, was kind. That is the last line I will give you. The rest is a town going on, and a lesson as old as any river. When you carry a secret that changes who you are, honesty is not a luxury. It is a rope you can hold before you slip. Thanks for watching till the end. If this case kept you thinking, like, subscribe, and ring the bell so you don't miss the next investigation. Question for you. Do you think the verdict was fair? Why or why not? At what moment could this tragedy have been prevented? Who had the last clear off-ramp? Mark or Elena? Drop your thoughts below and tell me your city and local time. See you in the next one.
Case closed. Archived in the synthetic vault. If you dare to return, the next file awaits. truecrime.exe. The line between fiction and fear.